Welcome back, everyone. Dustin here again, Average Guy Hi-Fi, with another speaker review for you guys. So, those of you that follow the channel probably already know speaker reviews and subwoofer reviews are really my passion. That's what I like doing the most because I get to go out and purchase the stuff, get my hands on it, listen to it, test it out, and that's really what I love about this hobby and the reason I've been doing it for 20 years. So, I did do that cable management video. I think there's some decent tips in there for those of you in like a living room situations, apartments, things like that. You can still have a pretty clean looking system like me, even when you're running 7 speakers in a 600 square foot townhouse. So, just kind of helping spread that type of information so you can, get into this hobby, take it a little bit more seriously, and hopefully save a bunch of money with some of these tips. But as you guys know, I'm actually using my money to purchase all this stuff, so I'm not trying to bring any bias into these videos where it's like, I have been getting emails recently because my channel is getting big enough to where manufacturers are offering to send me stuff, and I haven't even replied to those emails yet. I'm like, I don't know if I want to take that step. It would have to be totally defined. It's like, okay, I got sent these so you guys know it, or like me, I just wait for sales like you guys do, and I go out and buy speakers like this. And I think that might be where my niche is at. Just hopefully helping you guys try to save money on the sales or on the secondhand market, which is really what I like. So what I'm sitting here next to is speakers that I've been listening to here for a few months now, and I just absolutely love them. These are the Polk Reserve R200 bookshelf or stand mount speakers, depending on where you're from. And ultimately, what I purchased these for myself. I wasn't buying these and just planning on selling them. So I wanted to buy these so I could test them out against my Klipsch RP600Ms, which I love. I know they're not the perfect speaker, but they've got something special that I really like. And I wanted to compare these to the RP600Ms, and then whichever one won the fight, I would sell the other one. And ultimately, here's a spoiler. I did decide to keep the R200s over the RP600Ms. I think they're just a more rounded speaker. So that's a little bit of a fast forward there for you. But at the same time, I also am probably going to keep the the Klipsch RP600Ms because I like those as well too, and I'm a bit of a speaker guy. So these Polks have just been, I think they're just kind of a very, very good sweet spot when it comes to styling, when it comes to the price point, and when it comes to mainly how it sounds. For speakers under $1,000, in fact the MSRP is $749 for these, and like all Polk speakers, you can, if you're patient, you can wait for the right sale. When I picked these up, I picked them up as an open box for $549 from a company called ListenUp. If you guys aren't familiar with them, they're actually a great store. They've got good sales, but they sometimes on eBay will have open box deals. So when I ran across it, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and jump. And at the time I purchased these, there was actually a pretty big sale going, depending on who you were looking at. But these were on sale for $649 all the way down to $599 for the right place. And again, I picked them up for $549. You guys know I'm a bargain hunter. So if it wasn't for this channel, I might have just gone ahead and ordered brand new instead of open box, the $50 difference for me. But I actually had pretty good luck with ListenUp, and these turned out to be, just in great shape. Not perfect, but very, very nice speakers, good quality. So these are, again, a bookshelf speaker, and they're it's a rear ported bookshelf speaker. So there you go. And it has the X port, Polk, what Polk calls, and same with the LSIM and the RTI series. Polk's always been a little bit creative with style of their ports, and mainly that's so they reduce any port chuffing or turbulence around the port itself. And they've actually done a pretty good job. I was rocking out to these things. This room isn't very big, but I've been feeding them some really killer power and listening to some pretty demanding tracks, comparing them to the RP600Ms, and I noticed no port chuffing. Same with the Klipsch though. They got that kind of rectangle port, and I didn't notice anything there too. So there's kind of the back of the speaker. It's just 2 binding posts, positive and a negative. So you can't bi-amp them or bi-wire them. But as you guys know, I don't do that anyway. The Legend series, you can get the 4 binding posts with the jumpers and things like that. And here's kind of spinning around here. The dimensions of the speaker are actually pretty. When I opened the box, it caught me a little bit off guard. And the main dimension that caught me off guard was the depth. These are about 14 inches deep. So you want to plan ahead when you're placing these in your room, especially because you don't want speakers to be, rear-ported speakers to be all the way up against the wall. You need to have room to breathe, so they say, so the room doesn't impact the sound as much. So they're 14 inches deep. They are about 14 inches tall. I'll put the exact specs in the description. I can't memorize all these numbers, but these are real close. About 14 inches tall and about 7.5 inches wide. So a pretty good size bookshelf speaker, similar, like I showed you in the unboxing video, to the Klipsch RP600Ms. Those are the RP600Ms are a little bit taller, a little bit wider. These are a little bit deeper. So the internal volume is probably pretty similar. So this comes with the 1 inch, and this is that ring, the Pinnacle ring tweeter there. It's 1 inch. I've been really impressed with this. It's a very it's a very smooth sounding tweeter, but at the same time it's still lively, if that makes sense. I like a little bit more lively sounds. I always have. That's why I like a big fan of Klipsch. But the mids were scooped out on the RP600Ms a little bit more than I ever wanted, and that's why I wanted to try these here. So that 1 inch tweeter really kind of blends well with the crossover points and all that stuff. They have a 6.5 inch turbine woofer, and you can see it has, they call it turbine woofer because it has these kind of ridges in there. But the way I would look at it is like a thin sheet of steel. You know, it's much more wobbly, but if you have like louvers or divots in the metal, it actually makes it more rigid. And that's exactly kind of the science behind why Polk decided to go with that style woofer. So the specs are, you know, the spec that really sticks out on these speakers is the sensitivity. They are 86 dB sensitivity, which is not considered sensitive by any means. So if you're choosing to buy these speakers, you could probably get away in most rooms, especially if you have a subwoofer crossing them over and things like that, with a nice quality receiver. But I've been running it off this Nova 300 with 300 watts RMS, and they do like power, especially if you're going to be kind of bumping that volume level up. So that's the stat that really sticks out the most to me, is the 86 dB sensitivity, but I've always been a power guy, so I'm always using around 200 watts RMS at any given time. So I haven't had a chance to really test them off against a receiver yet, but I'd imagine they perform really well as long as you're trying to keep them within the spec. If you're giving them a certain amount of power, don't expect too much of them. Don't try to fill an auditorium with them. They are 8 ohms speakers with the normal kind of dips. There was nothing too crazy there when I was reading through the materials. Polk recommends a power amp of 30 to 200 watts for these. I would go higher again. 30 watts, you would need to be a really high quality, like solid state style amplifier, at least in my opinion. There's some good tube amps and things like that don't have very many watts that actually can drive pretty demanding speakers, but I would probably want to feed these things something like an Emotiva amp, where it's like a consistent power level across the board, again, especially if you're going into larger rooms. I really like kind of the style of these speakers as well too. There's the grille. As you can see, it's actually pretty transparent acoustically as well. They didn't junk it up with a bunch of plastic in there behind it. And I like that too, because I have those Kef R3s that have like those metal grills that are beautiful, but it turns out when people are actually testing them, the grills are impacting the sound. So these are nice, kind of clean up the look of the speaker. Basically just a really, really killer design. I think Polk, you know, there's 3 series of Polk. You have kind of the entry level, you have like this one right here, which is more in the mid-range, and then you also have the Legend, which is the high-end. I think this series kind of checks a lot of the boxes, and I try not to watch too many reviews because I don't want to bring that bias into my videos, but I do like reading about them, and I pick up things here and there. So the general consensus definitely seems to be that this is the sweet spot of the Polk lineup. So another little bit of a change to the channel is that we have gone ahead and eliminated one of the average guy hi-fi scoring categories. I kept reading the comments, and actually one of them made sense. I was giving you guys 5 categories, and there was 2 that involved price. I gave you the MSRP price, and then I also gave you my price paid. But what I'm going to do is just condense those into one category and just give you a little bit of my thoughts on the price. So instead of 5 categories, we're going down to 4. Plus, I'm trying to keep the videos a little bit shorter. As I say that, we're nearing 10 minutes here. So we'll cut this video off. I will go read through my notes, listen a little bit more, and then I'll give you guys the average guy hi-fi scoring section of the video. And I've said this on a couple previous videos, but I'm using my money for this channel. I haven't I haven't done Patreon. I haven't monetized this channel. All my videos were getting copyright struck down because I was just showing you guys how they sound. So what I'm going to do separately is I'm going to do these videos where they're reviews, and then I'm also just going to upload a video that shows you the sound comparison. This one will be the R200s against the RP600Ms, and it'll be a totally separate video. I want you guys to go listen to these things in person. Obviously, that's how you're going to really know if you like them or not. But I also do think that you pull a little bit out of these videos listening to them online, plus they're kind of fun to watch as well, too. So stay tuned for the Average Guy Hi-Fi scoring section, and then a few days later, I'll upload the sound comparison video. Okay, I know the first part of that video ran a little long, so I'll try to keep this part of the video a little bit on the shorter side. So again, we got the 4 categories that we're going to talk about here. We got quality, we got the sound, we got the price, and then we also have the looks. So, and these are out of 10, like normal. So when it comes to quality, I gave them an 8.5 out of 10. So a couple things to kind of consider with these speakers. You know, like if you go to the Best Buys of the world, people always push in dome tweeters. They're all dented, things like that. If you have kids, this might be an issue, this little waveguide, because it actually does stick out a little bit farther than the front of the speaker. And when you guys remember correct, like when I was doing my unboxing video, I actually noticed that it had a little bit of a kink in that little waveguide there. But it actually just it straightened right out, so it's not an issue for me. But what I'm concerned about is that somebody bumping into it, might be able to knock it off, or even, you know, I don't know if worse, it's both bad, but you could damage the tweeter itself. So definitely be a little bit cautious of that, because you don't want that thing getting dinged. The cabinets themselves are very high quality. The woofers, I think that's, you know, the ring tweeter and the woofers are really the highlights here. Again, because of the trickle-down technology with the Legend series, there's slight differences there. I don't think Polk is going to come out and say that these are exactly the same as the Legends. The Legends have a little bit nicer crossovers, things like that, much nicer cabinets. But overall quality, I think that Polk's onto something here. This vinyl wrap that they put on here seems better than the previous like the Studio series and things like that. It seems a little bit more robust. I like that there's no seams. When you kind of scroll through there, it's just like a nice rounded corner, no seams there. The seam around the top is up there, but it, you know, it's actually looks like it's adhered on there pretty good, because when you start looking at older speakers, you start realizing that vinyl can start failing. I don't see that being an issue with these speakers. Again, I really like the grille. I think the magnetic grills is like every manufacturer should do this, and the fact that they're nice and transparent, I like that as well too. So I gave them an 8.5 when it comes to quality. The one lacking, you know, obviously, you know, it just costs money, but I think that you have to do some things to separate it from the upper tier. I think having 2 positives, 2 negatives, for some people out there that might make a difference. Again, it doesn't for me. But everything from the rubber feet on the bottom to the way they are packaged to the cabinet, very nice quality, especially considering the $749 MSRP. When it comes to sound, now this is the most important category for most people. I'm like a blend. I like looks, I like sound, I like the whole thing. But I gave them a 9.5 when it comes to sound. Comparing these to my beloved Klipsch RP600Ms, it was clear that these are a more refined speaker. And I don't like open terms like this, but you can definitely tell that it has a more robust mid-bass. The crossover between the tweeters and the woofers, just, it blends beautifully. I would almost call these more of like a neutral speaker that are a little bit on the bass heavy side. That would be the way. They do get nice and bright. They can sound, you know, depending on how you have them set up. So it's not really a negative, but they just sound like a much more neutral speaker right out of the box without having to put a bunch of EQ and things like that into them. The mid bass was really the difference, and again, I'm a bit of a bass head. I like bookshelf speakers that really punch out, and that's why I like 6.5 inch woofer bookshelf speakers. That's what the majority of my experience has been, because I want ones that sound a little bit more like a tower speaker without being a tower speaker. Now, obviously, towers have their benefits with multiple woofers, things like that. But most people, you plan ahead. If you're doing bookshelf speakers, you'd add a subwoofer. And I'm a subwoofer guy. I think every system needs a subwoofer. That's debatable, though. So 9.5 when it comes to sound, a very well-rounded speaker considering the MSRP price of $749. I think that this series itself has really been knocked out of the park. I'm still a huge Klipsch Reference Premier fan, and in fact, they came out with the Reference Premier 2 lineup here that I will got to do a little bit of reading about it, but I want to get my hands on those as well too, because I used to have the original reference series, and then they did the reference 2s, and they did like better crossovers, better internal wiring, things like that, and it actually did make a difference. They weren't quite as harsh as the originals, and I think that that's probably what clipped. They just took that and refined the reference Premier series. Hopefully they did something about that mid-bass dip that they had. That was always my one complaint for those speakers. Stay tuned, because I'm going to get my hands on one of those speakers eventually. When it comes to the price, I gave them a 9. $750 is a killer deal on these speakers. Again, they're going to be competing with speakers that are quite a bit higher. $1,000 a pair. It's going to run with some of the ELACs and things like that can kind of get up there in price. But the nice thing about Polk, like Klipsch, some people feel it kind of diminishes the brand, but they do big sales. These were brand new speakers when they put them on sale for $600, $650. So that's just a smoking deal, and me getting them for $549 open box, that's a no-brainer. I could almost buy them for that price and then sell them for near it at this point, just because the demand on these is quite high because they're so new. Everybody's out there looking to save money these days. So I gave them a 9 when it comes to the price. There are brands out there that might be a little bit cheaper, things like that, but when you factor in the quality of the cabinet, the sound, all of that, killer price point, and especially if you can get them on sale. So if you're patient, pay attention, you can usually grab these things on sale for cheaper than the MSRP. When it comes to the looks, I gave them an 8.5. That's a respectable score for me. They're not going to knock your socks off, but actually the more I've had them here in my room, I really do like the rounded corners. I think the gray grills, this is one of the few speakers that I've ever owned that I actually prefer the looks of them with the grills on. I think the white and gray combo, especially with those Kanto white stands, and in this room is kind of my nerd room, so this is my 2-channel listening room, things like that. I think the white kind of goes good in this room itself. But they also come in black, and the nice thing about the black, it's more of a matte instead of those RP600Ms come with a more of a matte finish as well. I have the gloss, but that's not good for like theater rooms and things like that where you get reflections when you want a dark. So the black is nice and kind of just muted. You're not going to get a whole lot of reflections, but I really wanted a pair of white speakers in this room. 8.5 when it comes to the looks. I like the rounded edges. I like the looks of the cabinets. They are a little bit on the deep side, so they're going to stick out in your room, like I mentioned already. So that's going to be something that you just have to kind of keep in mind. But they're a little bit more squatty looking than the RP600Ms. They look great in this room. 8.5 looks. So we got 8.5 with quality, we got a 9.5 when it comes to sound, we got a 9 when it comes to the price, and we have an 8.5 when it comes to the looks. That comes to a 35.5 out of 40, which is an 88.7%. We'll say 89% average guy hi-fi score. I think, again, Polk really knocked it out of the park. If it wasn't for this channel, I might have opted in for the Legends series over the Reserve, but again, I'm a bit of a gearhead. I usually like the more expensive things for myself, but with the way that these sound, I think that they definitely are the sweet spot. I might have been at that point. If you're a Polk owner and you order the L200s, you might be a little bit like, why Polk? Why did you do it almost so close to the higher end series that we paid all that money for? It double the price. It doesn't really make sense unless you're kind of a furniture grade quality cabinet type person like I tend to be. But these are going to be around for a while, hopefully. I think that people out there, if you're doing home theaters, these are going to fit very well into home theaters. They have good dynamic sound. They have killer bass, good mid-range, and they're priced right. So good job, Polk. I think the Reserve series is going to be a big, big hit for you guys, and it's definitely well-deserved. So again, if this is the stuff you guys are into, my name is Dustin. The name of the channel is Average Guy Hi-Fi. I'm using my money. I'm trying to shop I got a lead on some cool stuff on the used market that hopefully I'll be able to grab over the weekend if it's still available. So that's the stuff I'm into. I'm just going to buy stuff on sale, review it, and then sometimes sell it or otherwise keep it, like I'm going to keep these R200s. Thank you again for stopping by.